Hello and welcome to another episode of Mainiac Science Lab. I am Mr. Andy. I am the Youth Services Librarian for the St. Johns County Public Library System, and you can usually find me hanging out at the main library in downtown St. Augustine, checking out books, talking to the kids, and generally doing what I can to share knowledge with you. Now today we're going to do some fun science with bubbles. Yes, bubbles are a perfect example of science. Why? Well, because a bubble is a perfect representation of the concept of surface tension. Now, surface tension is what happens when a liquid forms a skin-like layer on its surface. And this happens because the molecules in the liquid at the surface bind together tighter than they do throughout the rest of the liquid. And they do this because there's no molecules, or very few molecules, above the surface. So the molecules on the surface say, hey, we need to hang together and keep this thing going. So they all get really tight together and form what's called surface tension, which creates like a skin-like layer on top of the liquid. And surface tension seems to work better the thicker the liquid is. Like if you take water and you have it in a cup and you press your finger on it, usually your finger just goes right into the water. But if you have like a thicker liquid and you press very gently, you can actually indent the liquid before you break the surface and put your finger into the liquid. That's surface tension. It's pretty cool. Now a bubble is a sphere of surface tension with air trapped inside, which is how it works. The outside layer of the liquid forms that little skin, and the air inside is trapped, can't escape. It can't get through the surface, so it's hanging out in there and is floating around like a bubble until something happens to cause that surface tension to fail. There's a variety of things. External force can cause the surface tension to fail. If it bumps into an object, or is poked by a stick, or a strong gust of wind can break that surface tension. If it's a thin liquid, it will evaporate much quicker. And when it evaporates the liquid, the molecule bonds kind of come apart a little bit until the surface is weakened and the bubble pops. And if it ever finds a hole, somehow the air pressure inside the bubble escapes and the bubble collapses. So it's basically the surface tension trapping air inside that keeps the bubble in its shape, because the tight surface tension, air pressure inside, keeps the surface from just squishing and falling down. It stays and maintains that shape because of the air pressure in there until the air finds a way to escape, and then it all just falls apart. So that's how a bubble works. And I just happen to have a little bit of dish soap here in a glass and a little funnel. I'll see if I can get it close enough to the camera to where you can see. When I pull this out of the dish soap, you can kind of see a layer of soap. Oh, nope. I gotta be quick about this one. Let's see if I can show it to you before it disappears. You can kind of see, you can see the soap is collected in there, right? It's created a surface. Now I've got a lot of bubbles in my dish soap. When there's not bubbles and it's just a smooth surface, it's much easier to deal with. But if you get a layer of soap on that ring, then you can blow through the hole gently, expanding the bubble by forcing air into the liquid. The surface tension forms and it holds the air inside until something happens to cause it to collapse. In this case, I blew a little too hard, forced too much air, and the surface tension couldn't hold. That's okay. It's just for the fun of bubbles. Let's do another one. Nope. Ooh, dish soap doesn't taste very good. Pop, and there goes my bubble. And then you can see the liquid just kind of falling through the air, you know, following gravity's path down to my tabletop, and voila, we had a bubble, we had surface tension, and then the surface collapsed and the bubble popped. But that's how it works. So what can we do to make this bigger? What can we do to make bigger bubbles? How can we improve upon the science? Well, you can form a bubble with pretty much any thick, viscous liquid. All you have to do is force air into that liquid to create the bubble. And dish soap is a really great example of a thick, viscous liquid that you can use to create bubbles with. It's very easy. We do it all the time, accidentally usually. But when you're purposefully doing it, you can actually make really cool bubbles with dish soap. How can we make them even cooler? Well, I found a recipe in a book. Go figure. I work in a library. It's full of them. And we have a ton of books on science experiments. And some of those books talk about mega bubbles, which you can create at home with simple household ingredients. Most of these ingredients you probably already have in your home. There's one that you might not have, but it's easily obtained at your local grocery store. So to make mega bubbles, you're going to need water, which you have. You're going to need dish soap, which I hope you have, because you need to clean those dishes, right? And you're going to need glycerin. This is the secret ingredient that is going to make a mega bubble. You're also going to need a little bit of sugar, and then you're going to need your tool. You're going to need a rod, a dowel of some sort, and you're going to need some thin rope, thin flexible rope that you will attach to your rod with a washer, which you will put on your rope, which will help you create the opening of your bubble wand, your big mega bubble wand, which you will then coat in the solution you will make, lift it up, and drag it through the air to trap the air inside that liquid, formulating a little bit of surface tension and a really big bubble in the process. It's a lot of fun. It is super cool. And actually, one of my favorite parts of these mega bubbles is when they do pop, because you can see gooey strands of liquid falling through the air as the surface tension collapses, and the liquid is just popped into a bazillion little pieces of liquid that then fall to the ground. It looks kind of cool because it kind of seems like it hangs in the air for a second because it's not really sure what to do until gravity says, yeah, we're going down, and then down they go. So your solution is going to be 40 ounces of water, 40 ounces of water in a bucket, a clean bucket, because you don't want contaminants in your solution. 40 ounces of water, add 4 fluid ounces of dishwashing liquid or dish soap, and mix it up real good. Then you're going to want to add a bit of glycerin. 2 tablespoons is all it takes, because this stuff is super thick. So you're going to add 2 tablespoons to your solution and 5 more tablespoons of sugar. So glycerin is super thick, and that is going to help strengthen the molecular bonds of your bubbles. But it takes a lot of time, because glycerin is so thick and viscous, it takes a lot of time to truly disperse throughout the liquid solution that you've created. So what you need to do is take your 40 ounces of water, your 4 ounces of dishwashing liquid, your 2 tablespoons of glycerin, and your 5 tablespoons of sugar, mix them up in a bucket, put a piece of plastic wrap over the top of that bucket, and let it sit for a minimum of 24 hours. A couple days is best. That gives the glycerin time to really dissipate and work its way around the entire solution, therefore making a solution that will hold the surface tension for an optimal amount of time, allowing you to force as much air into that liquid as possible to create gigantic mega bubbles. It's a lot of fun. If you've been to any of the outdoor events that we host at the library over the last several years, Miss Michelle from our Hastings branch, this is kind of her specialty. She likes to make these mega bubbles, and she will show them off all day long, making giant bubbles in the wind, bubbles as big as you. It's kind of cool. Yeah, so that's what we're going to do. So you can go ahead and start mixing up your solution, but you're going to have to wait a while. I happen to have one that's already mixed up and ready to go, but we're going to go outside to make these bubbles because we don't want to make a big, giant, viscous mess in my workshop. So outside is definitely the best plan. Out in the yard, it'll just dissipate into the grass and into the dirt, and it's no big deal, but it's a lot of fun while you're making them. So the special tool you're going to need, though, your rod It's pretty simple. You need your string, and it needs to be thick enough to hold the liquid. A little thread won't do it. Thick rope, it's a bit too much. I just happen to have this thin cord here, which is useful for a lot of things, but it's going to be useful for this particular project. You're going to tie it off at one end. My stick happens to have an eye ring at the top, which makes it very convenient. If you don't have that, you can just tie a knot at the top of the stick. It's not a big deal. Just make sure it's good and tight so the rope on one end doesn't go anywhere. You want it to stay put onto your rod. The other end we're going to attach to the rod in a loose loop so it can be adjusted. You can slide it up and down the rod as needed to change the shape and the size of the opening of your rope loop that you're going to be creating. And the key ingredient is that little washer that I showed you. Did I show you the washer? Yeah, you need a dowel, you need your rope, thin rope, and you need a little washer. The washer is going to go on the rope, so when you dip this into the liquid and lift it out of the bucket, the washer is going to weight down the end of the rope like that, see? It's going to weight it down so you can control the opening of your string. So like, see? You'll have your loose end here, your tight end there, and then you have your washer, which kind of helps you create an opening that you can hopefully get a nice surface of soap on, and then wave it gently in the wind to fill it with air and create a ginormous bubble. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm going to just tie this off super loosely, just so I have the ability to control the shape. If I want to make it bigger, if I want to make it smaller, all I have to do is just kind of slide it around the pole, thereby controlling the shape of my bubble wand, my mega bubble wand. So let's go outside, let's try it out, and see what happens. Okay, so we're now in our outdoor laboratory, the big backyard, and I have my bucket of dish soap, water, and glycerin and sugar solution, and I have my special tool, which I will dip into the solution, creating a surface on this that I can then wave around slowly and hopefully trap some air inside and make some mega bubbles. Should be pretty cool. Let's see if it works. All right, here we go. So I'm taking my rope, and I'm gonna get it in the bucket, and I've gotta tip the bucket over to get it completely submerged, because that's what you need to do to form your surface tension. You have to fully submerge the rope and your stick, so when it comes out, you have that thin sheen of bubble juice. And then, my rope got tangled up. You got to be careful with that. And my assistant Otis is here helping me make sure that I do this right. Everybody say hi to Otis. All right, let's see if we can get another one. And then you move. Giant bubbles. Oh, that is so fun. I love doing this. Let's do a couple more. I'm going to adjust the camera angle. So you want to be careful not to get your rope all twisted up, because when it unravels itself with the weight of the washer, you could lose your surface tension. And you can tell you've got a good surface tension when you can see the shine. And then you get your giant bubble. I'm going to try to go bigger. I've been doing it small, so I'm going to go ahead and stretch it out before I put it in the bucket and see if I can get a super bubble going. It's going to be challenging because of the length of the stick. I have to get the whole stick submerged with the rope. And that's the tricky part. So if you have a tall, skinny bucket, it'll be a lot easier to do this. Mine's kind of round and wide. So all the solution's at the bottom. So I really have to tip it to get everything completely submerged. And look, my stick doesn't even fit in the bucket all the way. So that's just not going to work. I've got to make it at least as short as the bucket itself. Physics, you know. And then when I get my surface tension, step back so you can see all of it. Mega bubble. The size of that bubble. Oh, watch out, Otis. It's gonna get you. Oh, wow. I could do this all day, and I bet you could too. So now that you make your own solution, make sure you put plastic wrap over the top of it so you don't want the liquid to evaporate while it's soaking overnight and mixing and getting the glycerin all throughout it. I got glycerin all over my hands now. So yeah, make sure you put a plastic wrap over top so the solution doesn't evaporate while it's mixing, while it's brewing. And then when you're ready, go out in the backyard, just make sure you get the stick, the whole section, the stick and the rope that is going to contain the bubble, fully submerged. And when you bring it out of the bucket very slowly, you can see the sheen that lets you know you've got a good surface tension. And then you just slowly move it through the air to trap the air inside. You can make it you saw a couple there that were like 6 to 8 feet long. Pretty impressive stuff. And if you kind of turn the stick just right, you can make an actual separate bubble that floats all around by itself, which is so cool and so fun, and just a great way to spend a beautiful sunny afternoon. It's a little gray out today, but these bubbles are definitely brightening my day. So I'm Mr. Andy for the St. Johns County Public Library System, and this has been another Mainiac Science Lab. If you want to learn more science and have more fun, go back and check out some of the older videos we've made on our YouTube page and on our Facebook page. They're all archived there. You can look them up, find some new experiments that you can try with household items, and see what you can do to have some fun this coming weekend. And learn something all at the same time. So, for Mainiac Science Labs, Mr. Andy, signing off. Want to make some more bubbles before we go, though.